Okay, great to see you all first thing on a Monday morning. We have a fantastic lineup for you today on the programme. You've come here to feel empowered, inspired and educated, right? Yeah. Is that right? Yeah. Okay, fantastic. But before we do, we have to go through the housekeeping. So I'd like to introduce the service manager from Convene, John Ventura.
Big round of applause, that's nice. So really quick, 30-second housekeeping. Restrooms, if you haven't found them yet, they're on the other side of the floor. So if you come out these doors, make a left. To the right is the men's room, to the left is the women's room. We also have all genders, so one right in front of the men's room, and then for the women's is actually down this back hallway here. So we have 2 all genders on the floor and a communal men's and women's room. Along with that, our fire alarm tests are every Thursday. This event does not fall on Thursday, so if you do hear a fire alarm, take it seriously. To exit here, just follow right this door. The fire stairs are right there, along with elevator. And if you're on that side of the room, we just ask that you go that way. It'll easily expedite the process. We do have a meeting point at the Bank of England. If you're not from London, it's very close, don't worry. About a 5-minute quick walk from here. Other than that, very excited to host you guys today. And if you have any questions about the venue, we do have a table, but I'll be floating on the floor as well. Now back to Neil.
Thank you very much. So we have a fantastic lineup. There are agendas, programs and maps all over the floor, so keep an eye out on those. Tons lined up for you, so I'm going to hand over to CEO and founder of micebook, Chetan Shah.
Hello, welcome, and I hope you all found Convene this morning quite easily. It is our second Expo. The first one was last year. We learned a lot, and we've hopefully made some really serious improvements for the second time running. More inclusive, more content. It's just some great strides forward, but we know that we probably need to make more again. So we're working with you to make sure Expo 24 will be even better. So thank you. The theme of this conference is Conversations Powered. So let's do that. Turn around, say hello to the person behind you. If you don't know them, just say hello. Introduce yourself. I'm assuming you'll say hello to the person left to right of you. Have you? If not, say hello. Introduce yourselves. This is what it's about, right? Powering conversations. And we are going to make it really easy for you. Please come in. So, I just wanted to share a couple of things. This is our values that we try and live by. We want to be at the heart of the industry. We really try and make sure that we're offering creative solutions, dynamic solutions, slightly disruptive. Sometimes we'll get it right, sometimes we'll get it wrong, but we try and live by these values in everything we do. But broadly, our mantra is business events as a force for good. So we truly believe that we have reach, we have amplification, we can change behaviour en masse. So we do believe that as business events, we could be the force for good for the whole of the world, in terms of the world issues, challenges that are currently faced. So just a little bit of background on our motives, our why, and we hope that, and we'll actually thank you for taking part in Expo and helping us facilitate that. We want to continue the conversation through a whole programme of events over the next 12 months. So a few quick ones just to tell you about. International Women's Day on the 6th of March in Mandarin Oriental, a fantastic programme of education and celebration across the day, led by Zoe Tufts over there. So if you want to speak, if you want to know anything more about this particular event, speak to Zoe in the red jacket. We also have the awards. The micebook Awards is on the 29th of June, the Thursday after the last day of the meeting show. So if you are very astute, you'll notice we dropped the V, because virtual, whilst it's part of a programme of events, it actually now is firmly back to life, which is exciting, right? Yeah. So, the micebook Awards, 29th of June, the actual venue to be announced very shortly. On the 5th to the 7th of June, we've got the second part of Ventures, continuing the conversation that we started in Liverpool. Really exciting, and really exciting to share that it will be at the new Birch Selsdon. So, Paul, where are you, Paul? Is he in here? No. Okay. So, Birch Selsdon is a new property about to open in spring. It's the sister property to Birch. It's really exciting. Look at that library, people are happy. Really excited. 2 days there. Again, speak to Visual or Charlotte and the team, and they can share more details. One final thing that we're doing and launching very soon is the new hub. The hub is going to be more integrated with micebook.com, one login, one password, better guides, map search. So this is going to be such an improvement on the current hub. Okay, so this, just very quickly, this is about you guys and your conversations that you're going to have in the next couple of days. Of course, you've got your one-to-one meetings, but we have got so many other things where you can network, where you can actually meet each other, because we're facilitating those conversations to be powered, but it is up to you to make sure that you do that. Through the content that's going to be in this room 3 times each day, through the Next Gen content sessions in partnership with Castle Bell, which is all about new people entering our industry. The Work Zone, which is just over there on the right-hand side where you can catch up with emails and work. It is a no-sell zone, but of course you can still have conversations in partnership with Newflex. Lunch, inclusive, which will be across the whole floor, and we've got a lunchroom, but again, time to meet others. Nourish stations with the food and drink. The experiences, which some of you have seen, we've got the 360 booth, we've got the Lolly Labs by London and Partners, and we've got the head shop guy just there, say professional head shops for you guys to put on, obviously, things like LinkedIn. And we've got the 19 leaders meeting this afternoon at 3 p.m. with about 26 CEOs and MDs, and a great place to network. And of course, finally, the evening reception tonight from 5:45, which is just in this building and upstairs, and we'll show you where. That is almost it from me. Finally, we've got the leaderboard for the charts. So as the buyers interact, attend content sessions, meet with you guys, you've got your passwords, you can give them to enter into the app. The leaderboard has got some incredible prizes, from 2 flights to Bergen and with flights and accommodation experiences, 2 flights anywhere in the world, and a whole host of other hotel stays. So engage. That is it from me. Please give generously to our charity partner shelter. They'll be walking around. You can donate anything from £3 to £50. Appreciate your generosity. Have a great couple of days. Thank you, Neil.
Thank you. What a programme, right? So just to introduce myself, my name is Neil Hudson-Basing. I'm from conferencemcs.com, the leading global and sustainable network of elite professional facilitators, MCs and moderators. Last year, the conference was hosted by our CEO and founder, Sammy Allen. This year, you've got me. So sorry about that. And I'd just like to introduce Erica Oguru. Erica is our content producer. Erica, do you want to stand up and give everyone a wave? If you're looking for a content producer, Erica is your girl. Okay, so I'd like to invite our panel to join me on the stage. Thank you. So our first panel is boosting employees' value propositions. So we have 2 very different but very exciting organisations who are looking at developing a people-driven approach to how they operate, and we're going to look at what an employee-owned model looks like and moving towards that approach. So first we've got First Event, a leading UK corporate event management agency, and we've got Lloyds Banking, the UK's largest retail and commercial financial services provider. So I'm going to hand over to each of you to introduce yourselves, tell us a bit about your role and what you do and why you're here today. So Catherine, we'll start with you.
Thank you, Neil. Hi, my name is Catherine. I'm the Employee Relations Manager at First Event, and I'm so proud to say that I've been with the company for almost 7 years now. First Event, we are a multi-award-winning agency. We deliver events across the globe, and we've been employee-owned for about 2 years now. My role as Employee Relations Manager is all about looking at the experience of what it's like to be an employee and a part of the team at First Event. So it's a really exciting role. We're a very progressive agency, so we're always looking at what we're doing, how can we improve it, how can we make it even better for our team. And I think given that working in events is one of the most stressful jobs that we can do, I think it's really important that as a company we're always looking at what we can do to, improve the support that we have for people. So some examples have been we kind of ditched the 9-to-5 model long before COVID. It didn't work for us, and we did flexible working. So we're not afraid of change and always looking at how we can make it a better place to work.
Thank you. Alex?
Hi, I'm Alex. I am the head of marketing for First Event. Aside from heading all the conventional marketing teams, I also work very closely with Catherine and her team to deliver what I'm sure really sounds like a mammoth list of employee engagement objectives. As part of that, I help with developing the strategies for internal comms and engagement, and also I'm challenged, well, last year was definitely a challenge in terms of talent acquisition. So I run all talent acquisition campaigns and all forms of attraction for the business.
Thank you. And Josh?
My name's Josh Reynolds. I'm the Future Workplace Adoption Lead at Lloyds Banking Group. So what does that mean? As a large incumbent bank, it's been around for a long, long time. We have a lot of office estate. We're looking to transform that at the moment. As we transform it, although it's wonderful to have these lovely new shiny buildings, as we do that, we actually need to get colleagues to use them in the ways that we want them to support our future ways of working. So my role is to connect people, to bring people together, to encourage colleagues to exhibit those behaviours that we need them to show to really help us move forward and become a more agile organisation. Previous to that, I've also held roles in colleague experience and then done some of the more traditional banking kind of product roles. So yeah, we're certainly one of those large organisations who's been around for a long time. We've got a lot of change to make. It takes a long time to make change in this organisation, but we're really trying to do things differently now. More so than ever, because quite simply we have to. So we're really trying to be different.
Now you're both very, very different organisations. Obviously a lot of change since the pandemic, both moving to an employee-owned model. But for some people, they might not know what that means, what that would entail, how they would even go about actioning that. Obviously it's going to be very different for both of you. So what does it look like, and how have you made it happen? We'll come to First Event first.
Do you want to take the definition?
Yeah, I can. So employee ownership takes many forms, and it's really up to you as to how you want to implement it into your business. We operate as an EOT. So an EOT is an employee-owned trust. So that means that we have a board of trust which hold on behalf of the employees the majority share of the company. Now, it doesn't mean that we're Lord of the Flies and that everybody owns a piece and they're all bound for power. We have a conventional structure still. We have an MD, we have heads of, we have account managers, etc. But what it does mean is that they have a vested interest in the success of that company. It's not a share scheme, they can't sell them, but what they can do is they can benefit from the genuine success of the company. So, for example, we created almost like a bonus scheme, which is based on the success of the business on quarterly time frame, which means that, and also we don't do it by salary, so everybody gets the same amount, which kind of levels the playing field. But what employee ownership means to us as well is that we have a duty to make sure that our employees or our owners are fully informed as to what's going on in the business, how the business is running, how the business can succeed, and what each of their roles mean in success, not just for the business but for each other.
I think just sort of adding to what Alex has said, we sort of began the journey to become employee-owned about 2 years ago. And it was just on the back of the pandemic, really, and obviously it was a really tough time for everybody in the industry, and we just saw everybody in the team pull together not only for First Event but to be able to create amazing solutions for our clients. So it really felt like a natural pathway and a next step for us as a business. It really aligned to who we were and our ethos and culture. We always wanted everybody to have a voice in the company, but I think it gave us that platform to do that really consistently. So We had a bit of fun with it as well, so in order to like engage the team and take them on the journey with us, we did things like we introduced an employee council. It was really competitive. We had a presidential campaign and lots of fun with that. But they've actually, you know, sort of over the last couple of years, given the rest of the team and encouraged the rest of the team to come forward with ideas about what they want to do with the company and what they want to change and how they want to see it grow and develop, and that's exactly what we want. We don't want people to join us and sit back, you know, and not come forward with new ideas. So I think it's just enhanced what we were sort of already trying to do.
And I know that when we spoke before, you said about how Richard wanted to create a place where people love working, not just a job. Has that really kind of like fed through into the overall ethos of staff?
Yeah, 100%. I think, as you said, it's always been our mission anyway, so that's why employee ownership felt like the right move for us. But we've seen so many great benefits. So yeah, engagement has increased. It's a great tool for attraction and retention. But then also like motivation. So as Alex touched on, we have the bonus scheme and the framework across the year. And actually we've seen people coming from different teams within the business stepping up and saying, what can I do in my role to help us get there? What do I need to do to help us achieve these targets? And you know, we all succeed, we all benefit with the success of the bonus scheme. So yeah, we've seen some great benefits. The team are a lot more connected, I feel, as well to First Event as well, because we feel like we're always trying to consult with them and to bring them in on what we're doing and why.
Gives people that spirit of ownership.
I think so, yeah.
Okay. Josh, how about for Lloyds Banking? How does it work for you?
A little bit differently. As you can imagine, again, we've been around for 200 years, so in terms of ownership, there's some very embedded owners of the bank, and we have a huge shareholder base as well. However, we do encourage colleagues across the group to subscribe to our share plans, which offer very competitive option prices for them. We also, a few years ago, we offered every colleague a allocated number of shares, so that every colleague would, in effect, have some form of ownership in the group. Now you can appreciate it's quite difficult. We've got 60,000 colleagues, so bearing that in mind, there is such a breadth of differences in terms of you've got your university students who are working in our branches or our contact centres who are there for the summer or there for a few months and got their eye on other careers. Right over to you've got colleagues who've been with us for 30, 40 years. So there's a very difference in opinion in terms of how involved they want the group to be in their lives. However, kind of similar to you with the bonus share programs as well, it's heavily linked to kind of how the company does in terms of profits and losses. It will depend on what your bonus will be at the end of the year. I think as well what we're seeing shift, and we've seen it in things like AGMs where we have technically colleagues can go now because every colleague is a shareholder. At these AGMs recently, there's been a big push for things like sustainability. So very recently we announced that we are going to no longer invest as a bank in any more new fossil fuel investments, and we are going to kind of focus on those greener solutions and more greener investment. And that heavily came from the colleagues themselves being listened to, and them actually having that ownership, putting forward their votes in the AGM and saying, we agree with the wider society that this isn't right anymore, and as a bank we shouldn't be supporting this. So we're starting to see that come through. I guess we're not quite at First Events level, but we're working to get there. But overall our mission and our purpose as a group is to help Britain prosper, and we're very aware that also that includes our own colleagues. We need to help our own colleagues because again, some of those sat in head office may feel very comfortable, but we've also got colleagues in branch, in contact centres who are not in the same level of comfortability in terms of financial or personal situations, and so we need to help our own colleagues prosper as well. So yeah, there's a kind of a number of ways that we're trying to invest colleagues in the group a little bit more.
Everything sounds absolutely amazing, but surely there is a cost and time impact on all of that. Is it worth the investment? Is it worth the time, effort it takes to strategize and put all those amazing things into action? Is it worth it?
100%. I think obviously we've seen the workplace has changed so much over the last 10 years, and it's what people expect now. So no longer is it the situation where people are looking for employment based on how close it is to home and does the salary cover their bills. They're expecting so much more. So I think whether it's employee owned or not, I think as a company, you have to look at investing in your people, and it needs to have its own focus. And I feel really lucky to be in my role at First Event, because it's almost easy in the culture that we've got, because we're always trying to be better. But yeah, I think it's really important, whether it's employee ownership or not, to make sure that you are looking at your team and investing in them, because like I say, it's what people expect now from their employer.
And Alex, in terms of attracting?
Yeah, I think also, I was going to say, it has a two-pronged approach. Not only does investing in your people mean that you can use that as a badge of honour to attract, but also your retention is better. One of our main things is that one of our core values is honesty, and it gets thrown out there quite a lot. But in marketing, especially for talent acquisition, we have to be honest, because it's counterproductive otherwise. If we tell people it's nirvana and they get there and there's elements of it they don't like, or we missell it, it affects our attrition rates. So why would we? We need to have real values and real offers for people, so that when they get there, they're not disenchanted. It is a competitive industry, but that doesn't mean that once you've got them, that you stop trying. Retention is equally as important as attraction, but they work hand in hand, and you can't have one without the other. If you don't invest in your people, if you don't genuinely believe this as well, and if you don't value and respect each other, then no one will want to work with you, no matter how shiny your advertising is.
I guess that's the joys of things like social media and Glassdoor,
Yeah.
that you need to practice what you preach.
Yeah, it's a window, exactly. It's a window into who you are. And your social media, no matter how much you want to control it, will have that two-way communication. It's always the opportunity for people to say that you are telling the truth or you're not. It's always the whites of your eyes, not just for attraction or for clients, it's for who wants to come and work with you. The way that people engage on your social media as well, you can very easily tell when a company is not doing what it says by how people within that company are reacting to that social media. Have a look at the comments. How many people are actually really championing each other when there's reward and recognition posts put up? Things like that. Our target audience are very savvy, because it's you guys, and you all look like very intelligent people. And you can't pull the wool over people's eyes like that. You just can't.
Thank you. Josh, is it worth it?
I guess I just want to put in perspective the cost of not doing these things, of not getting colleagues invested. So we at Lloyds Banking Group, we go out and attract. We're trying to attract young, and not just young, but just talent in particularly the tech space, incredibly competitive right now. We go out there with all of our banners and our online campaigns of everyone, all these people together smiling, they're all happy, it's so cool, I'm at Lloyds Banking Group and this is where I want to stay for the foreseeable. They then come to one of our offices, wherever that may be, Manchester, Edinburgh, Belfast. They go into the office and it's dead quiet. They sit down in the office and nobody's really around, and that experience isn't there. The cost is that they're going to come and to exactly your point, they're going to say this was all a facade. This isn't we call it the vibe. We're using the vibe word now. I'm trying to get our senior execs to use the word vibe. It's one of my personal missions. We're vibing now, so that I've heard a few say it. It sounds a bit awkward, but we're working on it.
I saw a job description once for a vibe manager.
Yeah, exactly.
My job.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go, vibe. And this is the way that we're thinking now, is that people need to feel something. Now, you need to come together to feel that very often. You can get so much remote. We fully support, and we'll come on to that in a moment, we fully support flexible working and remote working, but there are those connection moments. Now, as a company, we are looking to prove to colleagues when they come in that the experience that we told them they were going to have is the experience that they're having. We can't do that without bringing people together and having that connection and creating that vibe in the office. So I guess the cost of not bringing colleagues in, not connecting them with the culture, not helping them feel what we're about, not helping them really feel that mission of helping Britain prosper will be, and we've actually got the data on this, we have seen that over COVID, when colleagues were not able to come in, they joined the group brand new, they couldn't come into the office, they couldn't get that connection to Lloyds Banking Group, it was all through a screen, they couldn't quite get that. They then were finding between 1 and 2 years of tenure, we were losing a lot of people, and we still are kind of at that point, and we recognise that it's the onboarding process that's really, really suffered as a result of COVID and not being able to come together. And so the real cost to us is that we are able to still attract good talent because we have the campaigns, we have the, you know, the weight of the Lloyds Banking Group name, but people are quickly kind of seeing this seems like a bit of a facade, this isn't what I imagined it to be, and they're moving on. And so we're very, very conscious of that, and we want to prove to new colleagues that at Lloyds Banking Group we really do live our values, very similar to what you're saying. And so, again, all of that about getting colleagues to buy into our mission, we need to bring them together, we need to show them that face to face.
I think it's about taking people on the journey with you into what you're trying to achieve, your objectives, but also creating that community. You know, we've got today that's all about community and connection. And hybrid and remote working has obviously played a big part in that, as you just spoke about. And there's a big debate over organisations trying to force people back into the office. Anyone in the audience had an experience of an organisation trying to force them back in? Yeah? Yeah. So it's a big debate at the moment, and I've just finished my current job, but they're trying to get us back, to go back in 3 days a week as opposed to kind of like just being a little bit more flexible. And people are leaving because they don't want to. So how have you tackled that within yourselves? I know we'll come to you first, Josh, actually, because you're working on a big project to get people back in.
Yeah, absolutely. So at Lloyds Banking Group, we are not mandating days. So from a group perspective, we are not mandating any set number of days. We are devolving that to individual divisions, teams, team managers, director level, and we've seen a broad spectrum. We've been on quite a journey from the early days of the pandemic to where we are now and seeing what works and what doesn't work. And we don't have the answer yet at all. And that's a really difficult message to get across to people, senior leaders, is that we don't have the answer yet. We're still experimenting, we're still working it out. However, what we are aware of is that just saying to people, and I guess this is something I struggle to see many senior leaders in business doing, and not really doing that well yet, is articulating the why behind why you're coming back. So often it's I want you back in, and it's kind of some vague reasons, or it's because we want to collaborate, and people will say, well, I've been collaborating just fine from home, I've been doing a great job, we've actually made more money as a company, so what are you saying here? And so what we're trying to do is articulate better the why, is that we want people to connect. We want people to connect together. It's connectivity. So when you come into the office, you are connecting with other people. You're not coming in the office to necessarily sit down, get your head down, sit on a million Teams calls, or bang out loads of emails. What we're saying, come together and speak to people, be around people, meet people, get that feel for people and build those relationships and have those experiences with others. So what we're looking to do is that we've had to think about what does community mean at Lloyds Banking Group. And it's really difficult because, I mean, I spent some time living up in Yorkshire, in Leeds, and then I also work in London, and I've also been to Bristol. It's so different. For such a small country, we're so different in our cultures and the way we think, and our demographics in certain areas. So again, you know, being up in Halifax, I learned about scraps, if anyone knows what scraps are. It blew my mind that you could buy, that you could purchase the scraps of chips from the fish and chip shop, and absolutely loved it. So just these different, it's amazing, I loved it. But again, like, it's these differences in culture that we have, even just in the UK. We recognise that. So what we've said to colleagues, we really want to empower them and say, what community do you need in Bristol? What community do you need in Edinburgh? And we've given them the funding, we've given them money, we've given them support, and we've given them the leeway to really try things differently. So we've been trying all sorts, just to bring people together. We're not saying we're trying to convince you to come back in the office. We're trying to say, when you are in the office, we want to give you a reason to be there, and the reason is people, and we want to build something in that you can build your connection around. So we've done things like puppy yoga, puppy therapy. They're not all puppy ones. We've done, you know, paint parties where you get together and paint pictures, and just whatever the local community is telling us that they want to see, to build their interactions around. We're happy to do that, and expect that when you're in the office, the old idea of being productive is not necessarily the thing anymore. It needs to change, because you might send no emails, you might attend no meetings, but you might have had the most productive day of your week because you've built social capital with all those around you. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to create that vibe, create that community, but the vibe looks different in different places, which is a challenge sometimes.
Just nailing that vibe in. is the key, and it is all change, and I don't think we've got there yet into finding what the solution is post-pandemic. How about our first event?
Yeah, I love that, Josh, and I see a lot of similarities between what we're doing and what you guys at Lloyds are doing, obviously on a different scale. So just similar to what Josh said, we actually try to create days from the office to get people together. And I totally agree, if I look at my sent items on that day, it's empty because there are no emails. But it's about bringing people together and connecting them. So we do have a monthly update from our office, which is loads of fun, you know, lots of food put on, encourage people in. And yeah, it's people meeting, catching up, building relationships, not sending emails. We also sort of live stream it and record it so that it is accessible to people as well. But we'll have those days. We do training from our office space, also we'll encourage people to come in for that. And then we'll try to sort of make sure that throughout the year we do have, sort of similar to what you were saying, Josh, we have reasons for people to connect. So it might be that, you know, next month we've got a kick-off conference where we're encouraging everyone to come together into Leeds. The next month we might do something that is more on a virtual level but still connecting people. But what we've also found has worked quite well for us, obviously our base is in Leeds, but we've got people working all over the country. And we've actually found that encouraging teams and teams within teams to choose how they want to meet up and work and when and what for has really helped. And you know, it might be that we have a project team meeting up and working from a hub in Manchester or Liverpool or the M62 corridor or whatever that is. But that's been really beneficial. It hasn't been prescriptive, it's been flexible, and it's been at the needs of what they're trying to achieve. So yeah, there's lots to be said for obviously connecting face to face, and I think it's just trying to not enforce it. So like you, we don't have set days where we expect people to travel in just for the sake of it, because that just feels a little bit backwards really to flexible working.
And there's a little bit of a trust thing there, isn't it? You
Absolutely.
want your employees to feel trusted so that they feel happy to come to work. Yeah. In terms of kind of like what's been the response from employees, and how do you measure that? How do you prove that all of this is worth the time and investment?
So we at First Event, we love going out to the team and asking them what we think, what they think of us. Sorry, it's not an annual survey. We're doing it sort of every quarter at least. We actually love the ENPS model, so it's the Employer Net Promoter Score. It's really simple but so effective because essentially it's one question. So you're just asking your team to rate you on a sliding scale of 0 to 10 on how likely they are to recommend First Event as a place to work. So that's been, you know, it's really effective because you can instantly get a feel for how you're performing as a company in the eyes of your employees. We hover around the best in class percentage, which is incredible, which is around 80%. So I think good is classed as being, well, 30% is classed as good. So yeah, hovering around 80 is, we're doing something right. It's pretty cool. And then we also like to add questions in, so we won't just ask the EMPS question. It might be topical questions that we'll ask for feedback on, or general feedback, and then everything right through to, if you were MD for a day at First Event, what 3 things would you do? So we get some interesting comments coming through.
And in terms of the general feeling as you go about the office, as you go about your day on those days when you come in, do you see that positivity? Do you see it reflected?
Yeah, it's quite cheesy to say, but it is the kind of First Event family sort of vibe. Sometimes people do bring their kids in to updates and things like that. So it is very much, it's palpable when you walk in the building. It really is, and you know, as cliche as that sounds, it really is.
There's a bit of cliche around the word family in the
really
workplace,
is, yeah.
isn't there? You know, I know people probably feel it, but sometimes it just feels the right word.
So there's been loads of articles and Forbes have done lots of things on how you shouldn't say that it's a family. And there's many reasons why you shouldn't, but then that's kind of looking at the conventional term family,
yeah.
Which I don't think really exists anymore. But also, the word doesn't come from a contrived marketing idea. This is the word that most people use to describe when we asked to describe First Event in 3 words. It just kept coming up and kept coming up. And so it was either we can put it aside and pretend that that's not what we do, or we could be really honest and open and say, this is how we do talk to each other. This is our voice, this is who we are. And we don't feel like, I mean, there's a lot of theories you should treat yourselves like sports teams, but that just feels like it's very competitive and very kind of, it's about one common goal rather than several common goals and your individual goals. And we really do focus on individual goals as well to get the best out of everybody and support everybody. because we approach it in the same way we approach our events. Like if somebody came to us and said, we need to engage more with our events, we'd be like, personalisation. That's one of the first things you go for, isn't it? Personalisation. What does the individual want? What does the group want? How do we bring that together? How do we deal with both needs? And that's very much the way we deal with our own employees and colleagues. We'd be foolish not to, really.
Yeah. I always think that you spend more time with your colleagues than you do with your own family a lot of the time, and you've always got the one that annoys you and the one that you love hanging out with.
Yeah.
So you might as well embrace
Pick
it.
the ones you want to talk to more.
Absolutely. Must be a completely different beast for you with so many staff. Like how does that all work in terms of measuring your employee satisfaction and then seeing the impact of it?
Yeah, it is a challenge. So we've recently, very, very recently, moved from annual surveys to, we still have that annual survey once every year, but we're now also doing monthly pulse surveys. Now you can imagine when you're taking in, we will get about 30,000 people's views, and that's a proportional view of the group for these pulse surveys, but that's still 30,000 responses and data that you have to analyse and get that out very, very quickly every month. So that is a mammoth task, but we are doing that. Along with all of that, in terms of measuring the sentiment as well, so we're building a form of scoring around community. So we're trying to give our local communities in our offices and then an overall group view of, well, what is our community score? And that takes in digital community as well. So we use Yammer, which is it's not social media, they would kill me for saying that, but it's like our internal work social media platform. And we measure engagement on that, so that feeds into the score as well as numbers in the office, how many events are going on in our sites, how many colleagues are coming into the site, and so all of these things feed into a score where we can kind of see, and we can dial things up and down as and when we need. So we're trying to change our approach, we're trying to create our very first community score, and that will probably have things that will go well and things that will go wrong, and we'll keep evolving this as we go. We have those surveys. But very similar, you can kind of feel the sentiment. And what's been really funny is as we've done these different events and really said to people, come into the office and come and just hang out and come and have some free pizza or we have to watch now, we're on a healthy eating kick from our chief people officer, so I can't say pizza, but I'll say sushi or something. They all kind of post on the Yammer and they'll say, this is amazing, I can't believe Lloyds Banking Group have allowed this. And that to me is signalling that we are doing the right thing, because we are changing things, because they're noticing, I can't believe we're doing this. And it's actually quite sad because some of the things aren't that radical, but they're noticing the change.
I don't know, sign me up for puppy yoga. I'm there. And it's just great to see change happening and realising that old practices don't work. Very keen to go over to audience questions, but before I do, just want to have a quick question around how can you encourage employers to have more meaningful, conscious conversations with their employees, thinking about those regular check-ins, appraisals, exit interviews. Why is it so important to have those?
I'm looking at you because I know you love the word exit interviews. You hate the word exit interviews. So essentially it's a cultural thing. Sorry, someone trying to break into the building. Essentially it's a cultural thing. You need to make sure that you can't have conscious conversations without respecting each other. You can't have conscious conversations without investing in what the other person is saying as much as what you want to say. And you can't have conscious conversations without having multiple two-way channels. So there is the elements of the one-to-ones and making sure that when you walk into a meeting with anybody, you are kind of wanting to know what they want to get from the meeting as well as going in there with your own agenda. It's also not just having conversations on your terms and when you want it. It's having an open channel of communication at all time for all levels. We operate kind of an open door policy whereby we constantly have a stream of Q&A running for the business on Slido, for example. Simple tool, but means you can be anonymous or not, and we address those openly during quarterly meetings or directly from the person that they're given to. So there's that element of it. There's using events in the best way. I mean, at the beginning we said that events has the power to change the world and that it's one of my best communication tools. So it's making sure that the events that we do have that very honest Q&A where nothing is censored, everything's up for debate, and all gloves are off. But in terms of the HR stance, I know that exit interviews are something that you've been challenging.
Yeah, I know we spoke about that last week. It's I think there is still a time and a place. I personally hate the name exit interviews. It's just awful. But I think you can't get enough feedback from people really. So if or when people are choosing to move on and leave, I think it's really important to understand their feeling on doing so. And I think you mentioned last week, Josh, that actually when somebody leaves an organisation, it's important to try and make sure that's done in the best way possible, like when you're trying to bring people in, so to leave on the best terms. So I think it's always good to get feedback in that interview at the end of employment, if and when that comes to it.
And Josh, conscious conversations in a large organisation?
Yeah, so number one, back in 2019, we removed performance ratings, had a massive effect. It was a huge cultural shift for particularly a bank to move away from those hard, you are a top performer, because that all fed into your bonus at the end of the year. And we removed that, and so now our check-ins are revolving around questions of how are you doing? Are you okay? How's your mental well-being? How's your objectives going? What's your development plan looking like? Completely changed our approach to conversations. I think along with that, we've really looked at our attrition rate and looked at how many colleagues are leaving and thought about these. You might have heard the term boomerang colleagues, and seeing the benefit of actually, it's really hard to let someone who's very talented go, but kind of as we were mentioning there, if you let them go in the right way, there's a high chance that they'll end up coming back at some point in their career with enhanced skills, enhanced experience, insight from other organisations that will be invaluable to us. And so really trying to build our alumni network, really trying to focus on, exactly as you say, it's not an exit interview, it's kind of a goodbye, see you soon chat with them. And then we've actually seen some very senior hires recently have come back, and they worked for Lloyds Banking Group 10 years ago, but they come back with so much more than they left with. And recognising that and being brave enough with the management to say it's right to let them go, it's right for their career, it's right for us, and actually this doesn't have to be the end, this isn't the end of our relationship with them.
Well, it's people driven, and again, it all just feeds into that employee value. It's something that people can look for, because then people will come into work for you because not just what you can do for them, but what they can do for you, but what you can do for them as well. So.
And I know we spoke previously about kind of not just looking at that, not just looking at what the company can do for them in terms of for the company. It's about personal goals as well. It's about dealing with individuals and individuals' needs and goals, full stop. So that doesn't necessarily mean when you get asked the question, where do you want to be in 5 years, in an interview, everyone dreads it because you think, okay, how do I want to be a manager in whatever this role is. That doesn't necessarily need to be true. It could be in 5 years, I hope to have the skills to be doing this, and also I want to be a PT, I want to, go off and do a course in psychology, I want to be better at X, Y, and Z, and it's that kind of knowing the way that what driving people and accepting that it isn't just all about their day-to-day job and what you want them to be, means that you get the best out of people, but also that they get the best possible experience while they're there.
Absolutely. It's recognising that people have different levels and different interests, and actually how they all merge and how they can work together. Fantastic. Audience, do you have any questions for our panel? Hi there. Yeah.
Hi.
We've got Mike just here.
Hello. Hi, Katie from Power Events. I just wanted to ask Alex and Catherine, did you say that you have put everybody on the same salary?
No.
Oh.
No, bonus. Bonus is not salary driven, which means that if you're not on a higher salary, you don't get more of a bonus, which a lot of people kind of do when they do these things. We do it as, this is how much everybody is getting, full stop.
So your bonuses.
Yeah.
And you do them quarterly?
Yes. Depending on the company's performance, yeah.
I might track you both down after if that's all right.
Yeah, go for it.
Questions to try and bore everybody.
I think everyone's happy to have a chat afterwards if anyone
Yeah.
have any already. Any other questions for our panel? Any question at all? No? Susie?
I've got a question. I don't know if this is Alex, it's a question for you and the ladies as well, but it sounds like you're sort of breaking down a lot of boundaries, and I imagine in a large organisation like Lloyd's, this is just my assumption, that that's been quite challenging at times. What are you really excited about, like looking to the future? What really excites you about your role and the change that you can implement within your large organisation?
So I think the number one thing that excites me is that I'm in future workplace, but I feel like I'm doing very little to do with working in the workplace. It's very much been about that holistic view of what's the experience like. So I think I'm really excited to look beyond what monitors have we got, what screens have we got, what's the chairs like, and actually thinking, well, what's the space like? Have we got places where people can gather together for town halls? Have we got kind of the amenities that people want? Have we got the feel in the building that people want? So that's really, really exciting, and we've never been able to do this before. We've never been able to look at this in this way before. Because the impetus wasn't there for the business. It is there now with hybrid working. We have to look differently at our office estate. So I think definitely that's something I'm very excited for. I think also I'm actually really excited for Gen Z, which I think often scare a lot of us because we're thinking they seem so different. And I'm a millennial myself, and I think I'm a relatively young millennial. So I'm kind of, but I'm definitely not Gen Z. But I'm looking at the way that they're approaching work, and that's making me really excited because it's forcing leaders to think differently, because they are ultimately rejecting leaders who won't, and they're being far more forthright than I think I ever was at that point in my career. So I'm really excited for the change that that's going to bring, because it's very, very positive. I mean, for example, it's a very silly example, but I'm wearing trainers today. I'm going to my head office later. If I'd have done that just 2 years ago, people would have looked at me like, Josh might need to go on a performance review or something because he's wearing trainers. And it blows my mind now that we're able to just think about work in a far more real way. And so I'm excited to see what Gen Z bring. I'm excited for the push that it's making us take in terms of how we adapt the way that we work, the behaviours that we need to see, the behaviours we don't want to see, the office space that we need, the working practices that we have, and using the technology as well. So Gen Z, I'm excited for you.
I think there was an NUS survey recently that showed that young people were placing workplace practices above salary, so particularly around things like sustainability and equality and diversity. What are you excited about at First Event?
I think just on that, Neil, as well, I think we're actually seeing it come forward in interviews as well. So, gone are the days of, like Alex touched on, us sitting and conducting an interview saying, why should we hire you? It's totally flipped. And people are asking, why should I join you? What are you doing that's different? What are you doing that's different to your competitors? So I think, like you said, just that shift in mindset is just changing the workplace so much and in the right direction, because it's forcing so much change.
Alex?
Well, like you said, we're breaking barriers, so what's not to be excited about? It's that thing of there's so much to be excited about. I mean, I'm going to steal your thunder a little bit now, but we've got some projects going on at the moment that we're really excited about that's in the immediate future. We've got a whole academy that we're creating to create in excellence, or kind of what we class as the First Event standard. So that's a really exciting project which will help support people working for us, and not just the event side, but also all the support roles. And that's kind of pioneering for us. But also we're implementing unlimited holidays as well, which is a big one for us. So that's where we're going to trial it for a year, see how it goes. Everyone's an adult. We've done a lot of tests on this, and people tend to work well to responsibility. So yeah, that's really exciting for us.
Very exciting. Again, back to trust.
Yeah.
Back to trust and faith in your employees. Any questions before we wrap up? Oh, got 2 questions here.
Is it because I said unlimited holidays?
No, I want to ask on the flip side, if you're doing unlimited holidays,
Yes.
what about taking the minimum? Because I've got a problem with my team, especially coming back after COVID, of
Yeah, so do you want me to take that, or do you?
Yeah, no, I'm happy to, Alex. I think you're totally right. And when we're looking at initiatives like unlimited holidays, flexible working, obviously we try not to put in a rule book because it just takes away from what we're trying to achieve. However, that is one of the only rules that we'll actually put forward, is that you have to take the minimum amount of time. So you know it's our legal responsibility as an employer. It's important that you take your holidays, and I think more so with working from home, because actually working from home, I think people have thought, well, I'll put it off and I don't need to take it in, as whereas you would have done previously. So I think it's more important than ever to take it, and that will be one of our only rules that we'll have in place, is to take the minimum.
We're so much more aware when it comes to well-being and burnout now, aren't we?
100%.
So it's crucial, especially working from home. We've all done it where you sign out much later, your work and home life gets merged, so it's really important. Oh, we had a second question.
Yes, good job, just going back to sort of making sure that all the different hubs and where people are based across the country, how do you make sure that people who aren't based at your main office or head office or main hub aren't feeling sort of like they're not part of the bigger wider company?
I can tell you, we've got a lot of hubs, and we've also got some home workers, so we've got colleagues that actually don't go into a hub. We've got those that might go into a hub, and again, this is the nuances of hybrid working. You have those that might go into the office once a month because they live 2 hours, 3 hours from their nearest hub. So we're really looking at that, and what we're trying to take a location approach. So traditionally, with our buildings, because in Edinburgh, for example, we've got 5 buildings in Edinburgh itself, they've usually stayed quite siloed, and they've looked at it as this is the, we've got an office called Port Hamilton, it's our Port Hamilton community, and then another building have another community. What we're pushing for, and we're saying we've created squads of people in our hub sites, of colleagues who are really engaged with the local community, but we've called it by the location. So we've got one for South Wales, which covers Newport and Cardiff, which is quite a big geographical area. And we've got a few other squads like this that are looking after a location, and we're trying to shift that mentality of you are looking after whatever that looks like, that is your location. And so what we're saying as well is we're trying to bring the branches in. So we've got branches everywhere. And so actually trying to involve them in what the head office is doing as well, and create this locational community. So that's the way we're approaching it, and it's taking its time, because we set up these squads, and straight away they say, oh yeah, well we'll have some stuff going on in this building, and I have a lead for this building. And what we're trying to say is we're saying, well no, we're trying to bring it all together, because exactly to your point, there's a whole community out there that don't use an office. So how do you engage them? And we're working really hard on that. I don't think we've cracked it yet, but we're looking to use things like Yammer, bring them in on Yammer, show them what's going on, invite them along to events. And again, reiterating that point that we're not telling you to come into the office for a meeting. We're telling you to come into the office to meet people, and noticing that people are genuinely willing to travel 2-3 hours on a train to come and get together for an event where they're not expected to sit in a room on a screen all day, than to come in and do their day job. So I think that's the way we're trying to draw them in and show them that there is a community there to use as and when you want to, but that community will remain, and there will be this bubble of activity going on. But certainly a challenge. We haven't cracked it yet.
Maybe a takeaway is to go away and post. If you've got Yammer or a similar thing, go away and post something, because you never know who that might speak to, and how you might be bringing site to bring them in. We've got time for one more question.
All these initiatives that we're all doing, how are you focusing on the DE&I space and attracting new talent?
Everyone looks at me. Yeah. So in terms of attracting new talent, what we tend to do is we put our best foot forward, as anyone does. But as I say, honesty is very key with us. We use social media quite a lot, aside from traditional advertising on relevant things. I work with Catherine very closely on any kind of job postings, and also we go through agencies like everyone does, but also we use organic. So we use LinkedIn quite a lot, but what we tend to find is you can track it as well. So you can see the traffic obviously coming from any kind of LinkedIn job straight into your socials. So your socials, as we said, is the window. But also making sure that if you have a happy team, and if you have teams that go off and talk about how great it is to work there, especially in an industry like the events industry. They all work, they all have friends in the industry, they all go on fan trips and things together, they all talk. Word of mouth works really well for us. Word of mouth, having colleagues that are excited and passionate about their job and where they work had that knock-on effect. We had to we expanded by over 50% last year. So talent crisis, have to increase that by over 50%, and we did it. And we also, and during that period, also won CNIT's Best Place to Work. So that balance is necessary. It's not just about getting people through the door, it's about making sure that people are happy once they get through that door. So yeah, it's making sure that the balance between attraction and retention is there. No point lying.
I think just to add to that, I think it's really important to be really authentic when you're meeting people and interviewing with people. So as Alex touched on earlier, we try to be really, really honest in those conversations, and to paint a picture of what it is like to work at First Event, and obviously in the events industry for some of the newcomers. So yeah, we'll be really honest and say things like, we're not completely perfect, we've got work to do, and joining us, we expect people to join us who can add value, who can suggest improvements to make us even better. So I think it's important to be really authentic with people up front to, and that gives you an edge on your competitors as well.
Yeah, we don't say that it's easy working in events because we know it's not. It's really, really hard working in events, and we're not all sat there singing "Come by Our" and hoping the events get done. But what we do say is that we try really hard to remove the blockers that make your job even harder. All of the red tape, all the bureaucracy, can't say that word, that are just unnecessary evils. We try to work really hard to make the experience as positive as possible and allow people to do what they're really good at.
Josh, DE&I?
Yeah, absolutely. I think first of all, representation is massive. So in all of our squads, so our local community squads, we make sure that they're represented by our networks, and that goes from, we have our Women's Breakthrough Network, we have our kind of religious networks, our Muslim network, Access is our disability network as well. So we make sure that they're all involved in the thinking behind what the community wants, because you need to get a representative view of that community if you're going to get the right events, the right vibe, I guess, in the location. And then also representation in the senior level. So recently there's been a real focus in Lloyd's around, actually at the senior level there's been a distinct lack in diversity, and so what we're seeing now actually, and just using an example, so our new Chief Operating Officer who is joining in a few months, he is clinically blind, and it's been so refreshing to see the different thinking that suddenly goes on. It's really sad that it takes that, but when someone so senior is coming in with a particular perspective and they're coming from a kind of a certain situation, that everyone starts considering these things, and it's really sad that it takes that. But we are seeing, as we are becoming more diverse on our board, in our senior leadership, that thinking is coming through, and it's really starting to take hold and become just normal practice like it should in the organisation. So yeah, I think representation is a really big one for us.
We do have a session on DE&I spend at 4:15 today, so do come along to that session. Find out a discussion about how the events industry is doing when it comes to DE&I. Thank you all so much. Do you want to leave everyone with a quick fire tip on how they can boost employee value proposition? Alex, I'll come over to you first.
Yes, so essentially think not what you can do for your country, so think what you can do for them as well as what they can do for you, is in every way. So every conversation you have, be present, be listening to what they're saying, make sure there's enough channels for them to actually voice their opinions and feel like their voice is heard. Be authentic, be real, be passionate, make sure it's top. Whatever employee engagement strategy you want to implement, it has to come from the top down. Everybody needs to believe on the top level. It can't just be a nice idea or something that you know is a box tick exercise. It needs to ripple through your company. It needs to be at the core. That's my main message.
Thank you, Catherine.
So I'm going to cheat, and I've got 2. So I think it's really important as a company to practice what you preach and really live your values. So I'm sure every organisation has got a set of values, but it's a total bugbear of mine when actually they just sit there gathering dust and they're not implemented. So I think it's really important to live by your values, obviously in the good times, but even more importantly when it's challenging. And I think also showing empathy. So within the leadership team, managers, it's the most important thing. You've got to care about the people in your team, otherwise everything else and all of the other initiatives are just pointless, really. So I think empathy is the biggest thing that that workplaces should be making sure is there and is real.
I'm going to be a bit corny, and I'm conscious I'm speaking to a room full of event specialists as well, and very much the mantra I know in many parts of the world is that if you build it, they will come. I think what we are realising more and more is that if you build it with them, they're already there, and we're really trying to live that. So I'd encourage kind of everyone to, almost the biggest thing is to empower colleagues. No one wants to work for an organisation where they don't feel empowered. And you can do that in many different ways, whether that's giving them the finances, giving them the lack of bureaucracy, whatever it is that they need to feel empowered. If they build it with you, you don't have to, my job becomes obsolete. You don't have to get people to adopt it because they built it and they're already there.
What great tips to finish on. Give a bit of appreciation for our panel.